And this week, our cover story concerns how the media lit its credibility on fire over the health and age-related decline of former President Joe Biden. We have recently seen a new spate of books that give a lot of additional details about how the Biden White House functioned or didn't function.
They filmed an entire town hall and they determined that it was not usable. Now, some people say this was because Joe Biden was incoherent. He could not really articulate his thoughts in a pithy or even semi-normal way. Some people just said, like, the lighting was bad.
Around the fact that an octogenarian president had a lot of limitations, and these limitations appeared to increase the longer he was in office.
Indian River community, the healing, nothing wrong with me.
But you'll note that a lot of this reporting did not happen until after Biden left office and after the 2024 election was already over.
We resolve our differences at the battle box. You know, that's how we do it, at the battle box.
So what went wrong? You saw a lot of media outlets that were not especially accepting of storylines that questioned whether Biden was perhaps too old to continue in his role as president.
Can I go up this way?
And a number of media outlets that were covering these stories sort of connected to the White House, really deferential to the White House line, calling a lot of the video footage of Biden seeming feeble to be cheap fakes or deceptively or maliciously edited.
And if you run that tape a little bit longer, you would see what was happening, what the president was actually doing, and it is a cheap fake.
So that is what about nothing, and he's totally normal.
What I'm saying is, this is a president, right? Let's step back for a second. Instead of, and I said this moments ago, instead of Republicans, focusing on the president's performance in office and what he's been able to accomplish, his actual record, they do these cheap fakes. They're cheap fakes. And you're asking me about the Maloney, you're asking me what happened. That video was, okay, let's talk about Juneteenth. The president stood there listening to the music and he didn't dance. Excuse me, I did not know not dancing was a health issue. That is a weird thing to actually flag.
And really as late as in the days before the fateful presidential debate in June of 2024, we're casting doubt on the idea that there was anything wrong with President Biden at all.
I've been all over the world with you. I've been in and out of battles anyway.
Then things took a swift turn when we had that June 27th debate, and no one could any longer deny what their eyes and ears were already telling them, that Biden was at a minimum a severely diminished communicator, which would be a major obstacle to waging a competitive re-election campaign.
On the total initiative relative to what we can do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look.
And much as the Democrats did themselves, the media then turned very sharply against Biden.
Well, let me say this as clearly as I can. I'm staying in the race. I'll beat Donald Trump. I will beat him again in 2020.
Only to resume a more cheerleading role once Biden finally did drop out and was replaced at the top of the Democratic ticket by his vice president, Kamala Harris.
And he showed once again what true leadership looks like.
The result of all of this, and this sort of optics of the media seeming to only become hostile in its Biden coverage once he was a liability to the Democratic Party, is one of the reasons why a lot of these books and a lot of the new reporting about the Biden White House isn't really assuaging people's concerns about the media.
Ever have a moment with him where you thought maybe he was unfit to run for president? No.
And we'd had several long talks. I had never seen him and walked away thinking he can't do this anymore. He was always on top of his brief.
End of quote. Repeat the line.
People seem to think that a lot of it is too little too late and are not convinced that the media has learned any of its lessons of what went wrong in terms of its Biden coverage. These questions are going to be really important going forward because the media is going to want to be very critical in its coverage of the current president, Donald Trump. How can they be taken seriously and be seen as nonpartisan when they do the tough coverage and they ask those demanding questions of Trump, when Biden, for the most part, seemed to get a free pass until it was really too late? What do you think? Please comment down below.